and we'll be seeing 7 colleges today. We're going to make a little spin around just after the mathematical bridge, and I'll bring you guys back down to where we started. Obviously, if you have any questions at any point, just go for it. I like a nice interactive tour.
Yeah.
And yeah, there are 31 colleges at Cambridge today, about 25,000 students.
Oh my word.
So a college is basically just where you live. While you're a student here, you'll go to lectures at different lecture halls and departments around the city with students from all different colleges. But you'll go back to your dormitories or rooms in your college.
Are they all, we visited the Trumpington Park and Ride?
Yeah.
Are they all student?
Sorry, which ones?
We back to the Trumpington Park and Ride.
Yeah.
So is all those buildings student?
Oh, the new ones?
Yeah.
No, that's just private housing.
Private housing, right?
Yeah, so Cambridge is massively growing. So yeah, first question for you guys, does anyone know when Cambridge University was founded? Or by the Duke of Buckingham? It was then refounded about a century later by Henry VIII and his Lord Chancellor Thomas Audley. Now it's spelt Magdalene, and there's a sister college in Oxford called Magdalene. So you might be wondering, why do we call it Magdalene? Well, that's because Thomas Audley, the Lord Chancellor, wanted his name to be part of the college. He actually wanted it to be called Audley College. But Henry VIII insisted that it be named after a religious figure, so they decided on Mary Magdalene from the Bible, and they made a compromise. So when you put Audley and Magdalene together, you get Magdalene. That's also why we call this Magdalene Bridge, which we're about to pass under. Now, Magdalene Bridge above us is one of the oldest steel bridges in the UK, first built in 1823. This is built on the site of the original Cambridge Bridge over the Cam, after which it gets its name. Now that dates from Roman times. This is a Roman road just above us. It goes directly south, almost in a perfect straight line down to London. Although I'd recommend taking the M11, it's probably a bit quicker. Just coming up on our right hand side here, we're seeing some of the accommodation from Magdalene College. Now obviously we've got some contrasting architecture styles here. Believe it or not, these 2 buildings, the red brick one there and this block, were actually built only 30 years apart. So that red brick building from the 1930s and this block from the 1960s. If I ended up in that building as a Magdalene College student, I would be a bit annoyed. It's not the prettiest building.
I'm going to say it's definitely a 60s building.
Now, a cool thing about going to one of these riverside colleges is that if you're a student here, you do get to take out your college's private punts whenever you like. So Magdalene College students have access to these 3 punts just behind me. Now, first years are only allowed to take them out once a year though, as historically they've gotten up to no good on these punts. But second and third years as much as they like, so you earn your right to drink and party on the punts. Now this channel just going down to the right here actually leads to the St John's private moorings, so there's about 12 boats that students can use up there as well. And this does mark where we pass into the grounds of St John's College. Now, St John's is actually the second largest college at Cambridge in terms of number of students, about 1,500 students, and it's the largest in terms of the space that the college occupies. Now this white building just coming up on our right hand side here is Cripps Court. It's built in the 1980s. This was actually one of the first buildings ever designed entirely on a computer. It's accommodation today, but it was quite a big deal when they opened the building. And Prince Charles, obviously our king now, was the man who was asked to come and unveil the building. And just after he made his opening speech, he forgot that his microphone was still on. He turned to his friend and he said, "The building looks exactly like a multi-storey car park." So you might agree with him on that one. Obviously the architect wasn't too happy about that when it blared across the big speakers. Yeah, the best thing about Cripps Court overlooks the back of the new court building here on our right, and we'll see the front of that in a few minutes. Now, new court on my right was built in 1831, and it connects via the Bridge of Sighs to Old Court.
What do they do?
So that's the dungeon for students who fail their exams. No, it's an old trade door for the college, so goods would have been brought up into the college, and coal, I think, was actually brought through that door to heat the building. Yeah, so that's what punts were originally used for. So,
Hello. Yeah.
So yeah, we are about to pass under the most famous bridge on the river. This is the Bridge of Sighs, straight ahead. Yeah. So yeah, it was originally just called the New Bridge, part of New Court, so also built in 1831. That is until Queen Victoria made a visit to Cambridge to see this new bridge. Stood on the next bridge along, Kitchen Bridge. She looked at it and she said it looks like her favourite bridge in Venice, the Bridge of Sighs. Yeah. I don't know if you ever have been to Venice and seen this bridge, but it looks nothing like it.
No.
Yes.
It's not even over water.
No.
It's where they went from prison, from the courthouse.
Yeah, exactly.
To the prison, and it'd be the last view that they'd get of Venice.
Oh, look.
Outside.
Yeah. Yeah, the last breath of fresh air they ever get. Now, Queen Victoria had never been to Venice herself. She was basing this off paintings that she'd seen. Obviously, no one was going to disagree with her being the Queen, though, so we did decide to keep the name. And yeah, if you don't know, the Bridge of Sighs goes from the courtroom to the executioner's chamber, so it's named after the size of the prisoners who cross it. And it's basically the last breath of fresh air they'll ever get. Now, here in Cambridge, the old joke is that St John's students have to cross over one way to go and get their exam results and back the other way to go and meet their parents. So a similar thing happening here. This is Kitchen Bridge, otherwise known as Concussion Bridge to us punters. So you learn your lesson pretty quickly on this one.
Wow, look at that.
Now just to my left here, on the bridge behind me, you can see the flood marks.
Yeah.
So that 1947 flood, the highest in this bridge's history. It doesn't really flood anymore. Since the 1950s we've had floodgates put in at the top of the river. But just back to my right here we can see the front of the new court building.
Oh wow.
One of the prettiest buildings along the Cam. Now you might think it looks a bit like a palace or a castle. This is actually just first year accommodation for St John's. So St John's, the second richest college here at Cambridge, obviously a lot of money to spend. And really flaunting their wealth with this one. Now the architect for New Court actually designed the entire building to be perfectly symmetrical, except for one little bit. So if you can see the eagle above the central arch there, I'll have to wait for this tree to get out of the way. But basically this eagle is looking left, away from the college across the river, Trinity College, in disgust. So these are the two biggest colleges and the two biggest rival colleges at Cambridge. Now, while St John's was founded in 1511 by Henry VIII's grandmother as a Catholic college, that was Lady Margaret Beaufort. Trinity was founded in 1546 by Henry VIII as an Anglican college, so the Reformation happened in between these two dates. And since then, unfortunately, Trinity has knocked St John's off the top of pretty much every leaderboard. We'll see Trinity just round to our left in a second.
Bond of friendship.
Relationship.
So yeah, just round to our left, you can see the front of or the back of Trinity College. This is the largest, richest, and most successful of any of the colleges at either Oxford or Cambridge. It was founded by Henry VIII. The reason it became so wealthy is because this was 4 years before he died when he founded the college, and he gave most of his land to the college to sort of maintain his legacy. Now it still owns a lot of that land today. Its assets are worth £1.9 billion. Owns a lot of land in London where the O2 Arena is situated, for example. Also owns Felixstowe Harbour, which is the UK's biggest shipping port. and it was once said that you could walk from here to Oxford entirely on Trinity-owned land. Now, since then, we might just have a little bash here, guys. Watch your elbow there, sir. Nicely done. Now, since then, Trinity College has had 33 Nobel Prize winners. Now, that's out of a total of Cambridge's 121. And to put that into context, Oxford, which has had the second most Nobel Prize winners of any university in the world, has only had 86. A fact I always obviously like to mention in my tours. Now, this grand building on our left here is called the Wren Library, built in 1695, designed by the same man who designed St Paul's Cathedral in London, Sir Christopher Wren. And he designed it to keep all of the books on the top floor here, so the bottom floor you can see right through into one of the Trinity quads. It's to protect these books from flooding. And he also tinted the windows green with moss to prevent direct sunlight ever hitting the books. Now, it's a good thing he did, because we have some very famous students and their works kept in this building who went to Trinity. So this is where Isaac Newton studied, Ernest Rutherford, James Clerk Maxwell, Ramanujan as well. So some very famous mathematicians and physicists, and their works are all kept in the Wren Library. It's also where Lord Byron's poetry is kept. And do you guys know Winnie the Pooh? Of course, so the original illustrations of Winnie the Pooh are also kept in the Wren Library, because A.A. Milne, the author, was a student here at Trinity, and his personal notebook is in the Wren Library as well. Now, we're just passing under Trinity Bridge. Not much to say about this one other than it is very pretty. And
this is Trinity Bridge, by the way. Got the emblem of Henry VIII with the Tudor rose there. And on the emblem of a man called Dr. Hooper, who
you guys have come at a good time. I think in a couple of hours it's going to be
very
hectic out here. Beautiful day though.
Dr. Hooper also introduced a debating competition.
This is actually Europe's busiest non-motorised waterway in the summer.
The debate's very
in a
famously
couple of hours it's going to be more like a slalom than a nice relaxing tour, I think.
It's not your typical debate. You can see the tall building behind the trees to the right. That's the university library. Every college has its own library, but that's the main library for the whole. Very big library as well. Every UK publication ever inside that.
So guys, this little building just coming up to our left-hand side where the punts are parked up outside is the old brew house. Today it's used by the Trinity Punting Company, but this is where beer used to be brewed for the city.
Very wealthy college.
So a reality of living in Cambridge and a lot of other big cities in the UK before a couple hundred years ago was that drinking water was very unsafe, very unclean, and you might get cholera from drinking it. So you'd probably be hydrating yourself with beer throughout the day. It wasn't like the beer that we drink today, it was only around 1% or less. That alcohol was enough to kill off the bacteria in the water, and maybe that explains our pub culture today.
The most famous probably being Spencer Percival. The last few Prime Ministers were
this red brick building just coming up on our left-hand side here is the Jerwood Library. This is the newest building on the river, apparently designed to resemble a ship, and it's part of Trinity Hall College, which is where Stephen Hawking studied. So, Stephen Hawking went to Oxford for his undergraduate, obviously realised he'd made a massive mistake, so came here for his PhD and spent the rest of his life here in Cambridge. For his PhD dissertation he produced his theory of the Big Bang and researched that theory as a fellow at Gonville and Caius College, just up the road. Now, Stephen Hawking used to live very close to me. I would often see him going through the park near my house. And I met a busker about 2 months ago who told me he used to perform on King's Parade, just in front of the chapel on the wall there. And back in the 1980s this was, Stephen Hawking used to come and listen to him often, and they became quite good friends as well. So usually we get a great view of Clare College coming up on our left here. Unfortunately, they're just doing some restoration work on the main building at the moment, and because the archway.
Good question.
Now, Clare College Bridge was the only bridge to survive the English Civil War.
By the way, if you want some guards,
that's due to Oliver Cromwell. So Cromwell decided to burn down all of the other bridges on the river. Just left this one standing for his troops to cross. And he actually left a cannon above this arch to my right here. You might notice the arch is not very semicircular anymore. It's kind of skewed.
Yeah.
So the weight of that cannon actually pressed the arch out of shape over time.
The reason he destroyed
so he really has left his mark
wanted to make it harder
on the
for
city.
the enemy to
And he actually used King's College Chapel as a stable for his forces during the war as well.
keep your eye on this bridge.
Did they take them down on purpose?
Yeah, took it down.
And then reassembled?
Yeah, reassembled after the war.
Just coming around to our left here, we're seeing the most famous view
This is the King's College
in the city. This is King's College Chapel on the left.
biggest chapel in the world.
Try my best.
So yeah, it's the largest chapel in the world. It started construction in 1446 under orders from King Henry VI, who founded the college just a few years before that. Ended up taking almost 100 years to complete the chapel, as it was interrupted by the War of the Roses, and then it was finished by Henry VIII. And yeah, if you guys ever get a chance to visit, I'd really recommend it. They are letting visitors in today, I think.
In there?
Yes, I think it's £12.50 at the Porter's Lodge at the front. But yeah, it's the world's largest fan vaulted ceiling inside, so it's really spectacular. And home to a very famous choir. So actually King's College was founded by Henry VI along with Eton College and King's College School, all at the same time, and it was basically all for the purpose of the choir. So basically boys would go to King's College School. As choristers, they'd sing on the front row in King's Chapel, and then when their voices broke around age 13 or 14, they would go to Eton College, where they'd be trained to sing as a bass singer, and then they would come back to King's College to sing in the same choir once again, this time on the back row. Now, until midway through the 1800s, you actually had to go to Eton College to go to King's College at all. Yeah, if you guys are after a drink, I can call the Pins boat over. And yeah, they've got some nice refreshing stuff. But have you guys heard of carols at King's before? Anyone? Carols at King's? So there's a Christmas service broadcast from the chapel every year on Christmas Eve, sung by King's College Choir. So they've been singing in there for around 600 years, but in the 1950s they first broadcast their Christmas Eve service, and definitely won't sing then. But yeah, basically at the start of this service there's a solo of Once in Royal David City, which is sort of the centrepiece of the whole show. It's what all those millions of people are waiting for. My friends in the choir were telling me that none of the boys actually know who's going to sing it until 10 minutes before it starts. So they've just diverted it into a side chapel just before the service. And the choir master will walk up to one of the boys, basically tell him he's got to sing it. And so he's basically telling this 12, 13-year-old boy that in 10 minutes' time he's got to go sing entirely on his own to 3 million people.
Oh, wow.
So they actually do that, so they prepare all the boys for it.
Yeah.
And they're all ready for it, and then if you only give them a short amount of time, they won't overthink it and get very nervous. Well, that's the idea at least. Now this building coming up on our left here is called Bodley's Court. This is second and third year accommodation for King's College, built in the 1890s. This is actually where Alan Turing lived while he studied at King's. So Alan Turing is the man who broke Hitler's Enigma code during World War II.
So I might put some petals in.
Did so by building the world's first computer. You've seen the movie The Imitation Game, that tells this story.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Benedict Cumberbatch. Now, unfortunately, Alan Turing was persecuted for his sexuality while he was alive. Took his own life in the 1950s. But he has since been pardoned by the UK government and earned a Nobel Prize after he died as well. He's on the £50 note as well. And Yeah, there's one fun fact for you. You know the Apple logo? It's got a bite taken out of the apple. So that's because Alan Turing took his own life with cyanide, which is derived from an apple. And he was the founder of or creator of the first computer. So that's kind of to honour the tragedy and the story. Yeah, another fun fact for you that some people on my boat the other day told me is that the stalk on the top of the logo fits perfectly into that bite.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
It's very random, but
Out and in. And out and out.
So we have passed into the grounds of the final college on our tour. This is Queen's College.
This one?
Yeah, so both sides of the river here.
This building in London. This is like how?
Yeah, so this is actually...
Like a 60s building.
Yeah.
Yeah, so built in 1959. This is known as the ugliest building on the river.
It really is.
Called the Erasmus Building. Designed by the architect Sir Basil Spence. And he designed it to look like the trees on the other side of the river, apparently. So those brick pillars are like the trunks. The windows are supposed to reflect the leaves, and then the white bar along the top is like the English weather.
He's
Fowling.
smoking something.
Well, so he was actually well known for taking LSD.
Oh, there we go.
Although you'd think he would have designed something a bit more interesting if he was doing that all the time.
Hello.
But yeah, whether you like it or not, it is here to stay, so it's grade 2 listed.
Oh my.
That's because it's a warning. Often we find that buildings are listed as a warning.
Don't do it again.
Exactly.
Do
so
not do this.
preserving a piece of 50s architecture for us. So I think Queen's College, instead of just planting some trees in front of it to try and cover up their mistake.
Yeah. No.
Tea?
Oh, I like this bridge colour.
So yeah, we are coming up to the mathematical bridge, so that will mark the halfway point of our tour. Make a little spin around just after that. But the bridge does connect what's known as the dark side of Queen's College with the light side. Now, the light side on my right hand side, the dark side, these red brick buildings over here.
Right.
The reason it's called the dark side of the college, if you see this red brick building just jutting out into the river there,
Yeah.
on the side you can see some very small windows.
Yeah.
Very dark building inside.
Yeah.
So that's actually the President's Lodge of Queen's College. It's the oldest building on the river from 1448, built at the time of the window tax. So
Oh, hence small windows.
exactly. So you were basically, because only rich people could afford windows, you were taxed based on the size of any windows that you had in the building.
Make it so small.
And Queen's College did not have enough money to build windows any larger than that
And
at
they
the time.
even bricked them up, look.
Yeah, dark building inside compared to the crypt building on our right, which is obviously a much brighter piece of 90s architecture.
I definitely.
How old is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the mathematical bridge was first built in 1740.
This is so nice.
Gets its name from its geometrical design. So essentially, although the bridge looks curved, every single plank on it is perfectly straight and follows the tangent of a circle. So if we move away from it a bit, you'll be able to see that a little bit better.
So how many editions are we? Is this like Mark 7 or something?
Sorry?
Well, it's not going to be the original, is it?
No, so this is actually the third version.
Only the third? Wow.
The original used to be by Trinity Hall, do you know where the big new arch bridge is? But this one's from 1910.
1910, yeah.
I'm gonna, on the way back, take what I can get.
Yeah.
So yeah, we are just going to make a spin around after this guy moves along.
What's the one over there?
Sorry?
That building.
That's the Cripps building, it's part of Queen's College. Sort of where the first years live today. Now, I've grown up in Cambridge my entire life, and I've always heard the same story get told about this bridge, the mathematical bridge. And the story goes that Isaac Newton built the mathematical bridge himself without the use of any nuts and bolts. So the way the wood interlocks, it could just hold itself together under its own weight. And then after he died, some of his students took it apart to see how he'd done it. They couldn't figure out how to put it back together again.
Oh, no.
So that's why there are nuts and bolts all over it today, just to hold it all together.
Smile, people. Thank
Now, it's a
you.
very good story. Unfortunately, when I became a punter, I was let into a little punter's secret. And that is that this story has been entirely made up by punters to entertain their guests. and it's been told for so long, so many times that everyone believes it, including the people who grew up here. We even get people from China asking where the Newton Bridge is. So the story's actually made its way abroad.
Made up as in
the
Newton
Wikipedia
didn't
page.
actually design it.
Sorry?
Made up in as far as Newton didn't design it.
No, the idea, yes, that, but also the idea that it had no nuts and bolts in it. So the only part of the bridge without any nuts and bolts in it today is just where it meets the sides. The entire bridge is just resting on the stone there. But yeah, very good story. If you do ever get another punter try and tell you that though, you can tell him that the bridge was actually built by William Etheridge, obviously a man who doesn't get enough credit, a very talented carpenter, and it was built 10 years after Isaac Newton died.
Which way are you going, Max?
busy now. We came at the right time, I think.
So do you have like friendly rivalry with the other punting companies
Yes.
with regard to the...
Sometimes not so friendly. No, yeah, there's a lot of some of the crashes, people get a bit worked up and stuff. But we don't like Scudamores, so they're the big company that has both ends of the river.
Oh, right.
And the old joke is that Scudamores punters are actually all on clockwork machinery, they're not real people.
They're
They
robots.
they say the same thing every tour.
They're robots. Well, I'd quite happily stay in one of these the rest of the day, so if you want to just go.
Your credit card might get melted.
My card might definitely get melted. They look very comfy, don't they?
So if you guys ever come back to Cambridge and want to give punting a go yourself, I would recommend it.
No.
You might fall in, but it's a good bit of fun. I'd recommend, instead of going up the backs here, I'd say go to the next section of the river upstream, go up to Grantchester Meadows,
Right.
which is where Pink Floyd wrote a lot of their songs. So,
Oh, nice.
yeah, Sid Barrett and David Gilmour from Cambridge, they grew up together, went to the same school. And yeah, you can bring a picnic up there, tie your boat up to a willow tree, and it's always a lot more fun on the way back after a few beers.
I was going to say drink your afternoon away.
I actually think punting's easiest after exactly 2 pints.
And what's your current tally for today?
Unfortunately, 0.
That's a secret.
I'll get there hopefully. Hopefully a free drink from the Pimm's boat at some point.
Do you ever get attacked by the swans?
I was going to say,
Yes.
they are vicious.
They, yeah, they can be very aggressive. They just had babies.
Oh, so
There's
they're
a pair that just had
protective.
babies, so they're very aggressive at the moment.
Aren't you? You're gorgeous and you're protected.
Actually, the ducks are surprisingly vicious towards each other, but I have had a duck jump in the boat once. Freaked out some people because there was a big loaf of bread in the middle of the boat.
They're alright to pick up and put back down again. Can you imagine just like living in one of these places and just like just popping on whenever you want? How crazy is that? I don't know what I've taken. I don't know what I've managed to take. I think I'm losing some myself in here. I've decided where I'm living permanently.
කෑම කරත්තෙකුත් යනවා.
Now that is
So guys, we're just seeing the postcard view of Cambridge on the right hand side here. Now there's a famous group of Cambridge pranksters called the Night Climbers. They're a secret student group, and basically what they do is they climb buildings at night and leave funny objects on the top of them to annoy the university. Now the Night Climbers about 20 years ago pulled off a prank where they climbed King's Chapel and they left a traffic cone on the top of that left spire up there, right on that metal spike.
no.
Now, due to health and safety laws, and much to the annoyance of King's College, the college had to hire a scaffolding team to build scaffolding the whole way up the tower to try and reach this.
How did
It
they
took them
go?
6 days, and on the evening of the 5th day, just before they reached it, the night climbers went up again and they moved it to the other tower. They had to rebuild the
How did
scaffolding
they
all over
get
again.
up there?
Okay.
Yeah, so
They
they've
should
also
have hired
been,
the same people.
Basically leaving Santa's hats on the top of these towers every year at Christmas. And it's finally got to the point where King's College have had enough. So they've got some metal spikes around those towers, as you can see, to try and stop them going
They are
up.
the vigilante.
Giant pigeon.
Yeah, it was costing them quite a lot of money.
That is funny though. Can you imagine if you had the confidence to even go up there? I'd want to like spray paint a logo.
Yeah, if you're wondering what the scaffolding is up there at the moment, they are just replacing the roofing tiles.
Yeah.
So it's been kind of a big controversial news story. They're actually deciding to put solar panels on the top of the chapel. They're supposed to be sort of, you know, low key, so you can't really see that they're solar panels until you get close to them. So yeah, trying to bring the chapel into the 21st century.
Huh? You like being on the boat? Shall we go to France? I'm not, I don't know.
So we are just passing alongside Clare College at the moment. Now usually we get a really nice view into Clare College Gardens on our left hand side behind this green fence. It's one of the prettiest gardens in Cambridge. It's a very famous garden in this country actually. And Clare College is actually where Sir David Attenborough studied.
Oh.
So you know, the voice of God on our nature documentaries. So David Attenborough originally came to Clare to study geology, but he wrote in a recent memoir that spending time in Clare College Gardens was actually one of the factors that made him want to study zoology instead, so he switched at the end of his first year.
Oh, wow.
And a good thing he did. He's turned 97 and he's still making more documentaries than ever, it seems like, to be honest. Yeah, on that note, another great thing to do in Cambridge is go around the botanical gardens. So springtime's a great time to go, and it's just by the train station as well.
So where we get off, how long a walk is it?
So it would be. Did you guys come here on the train?
We got off at Trumpington,
Oh yeah. Okay, so it's actually towards that direction. So
Oh yeah, it's the
probably
first stop.
when all the ivy leaves change colour. Now that ivy was planted 150 years ago to cover up the fact that this side of Newport was built using brick. So basically the architects spent too much money on the front of the building and they had to finish it off using a cheaper building material at the back. But it has resulted in something quite cool, so that's what we're going to see in around October.
Oh. We're waiting now.
Oh no.
You need a license to drive one of these things.
See, that's why it's my way.
Sorry about the bump, guys. Wasn't sure which way it was going.
Look at that. Smile.
So we are just passing back alongside Magdalen College, home to my personal least favourite building on the river. Now that 1960s block also protected because this is a heritage site, so I think one of the students might have to burn a piece of toast and burn the building to the ground or something, so we can have something new. But how long are you guys all in Cambridge for? Just the day or a bit longer? Yeah. Are you looking for any nice pubs or restaurants or anything? Excellent. So yeah, I'll actually be able to point out a couple nice spots in a second. you're looking to come up with a nice novel or something, that's obviously a good place to go. Also, if you mention my name in there, Nathan, Punter, you'll get 20% off because I work there as well, so really nice place to go.
Where was that? We couldn't hear it very well.
Sorry?
We couldn't hear what you said.
Oh, the Pickerel Inn, so that one there.
Oh, there.
So yeah, great pub. There's also